What's up? This is Vince Carter. You're listening to the 3-Point Conversion. Check it out.
I want to first off say this segment is brought to you by Perry Trademark Law. They got you covered with trademark, copyright, and trade secrets. Call 844-737-7986. Again, 844-PERRY-TM. And we have a special guest.
Yes.
Man, I'm honored to have this guest on. Real quick, just tell a quick story. I was 12 years old. I don't even tell this story a lot either, but I was 12 years old. We got the opportunity, me and my father, to go to a game, and my father knew the chaplain of the Chicago Bulls. Shout out to Scott Bradley. And Scott Bradley invited my father to be the guest chaplain, and I was able to go. So I was too young to go to the locker room. I was able to go to the door, but I was too young. At that time, I think you had to be 16, and I couldn't go. So go in. My father got to go in, meet Mike. Introduced to everybody. And I'll never forget, we were in the hallway, and this guy came in, was just walking, taking his time walking, had his African hat, and I never forget it. And I'm looking like, oh, snap. There go, that's Craig Hodges. I'm just like geek. And I remember Scott Bradley and introduced him to my father. And they like wanted the same, my father, Arlington community. And I remember he spoke to him and he came to me and he said, hey, the first thing he said was, hey, what's up, black man? I would never forget that. And that stood out. But just his demeanor and the way he carried himself always put an impact on me. Me and my father always talk about that because my father always wanted to work with him. So, but none other than my man, Mr. Craig Hodges. What's going on, sir?
Hey, brother, peace and blessings to you and your listening audience, man. It's like I said, man, we were talking the other day, man. It's a blessing to get an opportunity to get a chance to come across the airwaves, man, and appreciate the work that you're doing. Keep up the good work, brother.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So I have to start off. We got to know the 92 championship season. Of course, y'all won, visited the White House. And then, of course, if people don't know, they show footage of it. Went in there, represented, had your dashiki on, the African hat. And then actually, I think it was an eight-page letter to George Bush you wrote about, him helping out the community and your thoughts on that and everything. Now, I want to know, did you foresee the repercussions that came with it? Because after that, we didn't see you in the NBA no more. We was wondering what was going on. Did you foresee what happened with that?
One of the things that I tell people all the time is that when you're in the spirit of doing what you're doing, similar to what John Carlos and Tommy Smith did during the Olympics, it's not a matter of you doing it with the mindset that you'll never be able to do your craft again. You're doing it with a mindset that you're in the moment, and what becomes a sacrifice after it's done is not thought about that in the midst of doing. So for me, I didn't really consider the repercussions, even though I studied the histories of the brothers who had did similar, and as far as what is considered protest, but in fact activism. So for me, it's one of those things. When it happened, when I start to see the repercussions, that's when you know that you're part of a fabric that's been going on in this country and civilization for over 500 years.
So I guess a follow-up question is, what was it like, or did you get any support from your fellow player? Of course, back then I was too young to know about it. I didn't hear about it. I wasn't really into the politics like that. But did you ever get support from the teammates or other players in the NBA?
No, it was one of those things, man, where it was, no one really wanted to jeopardize what they were doing, and I could understand it, man. From that standpoint. But at the same time, I would think that my players' association, my union, would have had something to say, and pretty much they didn't really do anything. So, it was a lesson learned, but at the same time, it was very important to have done it because it was a cultural imperative from where I stood, from the way I grew up, and knowing that you have to represent your people at times when foreseen and unforeseen. So depending on the circumstance and when it comes up, it depends on who's there to deliver the message. And in 1991-92, it was up on me to do that because no one else had the opportunity, although my brothers, some of them hadn't studied enough to be able to understand what I was doing. So from that standpoint, it's cool, man. It was one of the best days of my life, being able to deliver a message on behalf of my people as well as those who are poor and disenfranchised.
Absolutely. Now, with all us being from Chicago, I want to say this. My best friend wanted me to say thank you because you gave them jerseys at the Henry Hornet homes. I think it was in 90 or 91.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
He wanted to say thank you. Now, in 91, after the Rodney King beating, you asked Magic and Mike to boycott Game 1 of the finals. What do you think? What kind of impact you think that would have had, and what was it you're thinking behind that?
Well, one of the things that a lot of people didn't realize is that when I was saying it, it had been a precedent set in 1963 in the All-Star game with Elgin Baylor and Jerry West, who had said that they would boycott if the players weren't given a certain measure of standard. So that was, the beginning of our players' union. So that being the case, I looked at 21 of the 24 players in the 1991 championship for brothers. And if we wanted to have some type of measure of impact on, black executives, black upper management, and the like, we had an opportunity right there for a work stoppage to get those things done. Because, in fact, the only time work stoppage happens, it can impact the owners is at All-Star Weekend and during the playoffs. And they understand as ownership that when they lock us out, they always lock us out in preseason and early in the regular season, knowing that they can recoup their finances at All-Star Weekend and during the finals. So that was the reasoning behind it. And, once again, when you're at that superstar status, when somebody like a Craig Hodges approaches you, it's almost as though they just kind of blew it off. It wasn't even, to me, they didn't even take what I was saying seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just wonder what would have happened. Like, man, that would have been big.
That's the thing is that, if you look at it, this is how it works. 19 minutes on the clock, teams come out of the locker room. If at 19 minutes, neither one of us would have came out of the locker room, they would have been like, well, they're playing mental games with one another. 15 minutes on the clock, they would have been like, what's going on? 10 minutes on the clock, I guarantee you, the commissioner would have been in the locker room saying, what the hell is going on? And at that point, you have a measure of power because you have a billion people watching. You have, 20,000, 30,000 people in the stands. And so it's one of those things where they can't allow it not to happen. So what are the measures you need us to take as ownership so that you can go out there and play for us? And those are the opportunities I feel that sometimes we miss because whether we're not courageous enough or whether we're not studied enough, we haven't made those moves. So like to me, in sitting watching I Can't Breathe movement, when I saw the players put on the uniform, put on this T-shirts over their uniforms, I get that. But when it was time for jump ball, you took it off, and now you're back in the uniforms of the people who caused the mayhem in the first place.
Man.
So for me, at that point in time, when you had probably 10 of 10 players who were getting ready to start that game, what would happen if they would have came out on the court and just sat down?
See, and I promise you, I've been saying that. I said that then. I said again, and it's documented, recorded on my podcast. I said, I get it. I said the same thing. I get it. But man, if they wouldn't have stayed, if they wouldn't have played, you know what that would have done?
And that's the thing, man, is that, right now we're at a situation of we have to make as a community. And that's one of the things that when I'm looking at this Last Dance thing, the whole thing is that Michael Jordan had an opportunity to galvanize the planet with this documentary, really, where, you had a chance to be able to bring corporate America down to, the classes that really need help. And as opposed to it just being a thing where it seems to be that you've taken a position of you're better than your teammates, and that you were able to separate yourself from your teammates in such a manner that it sheds negative light upon them, as opposed to you saying that they were valuable to enhancing and the ascension of your career and the number of shots that you got to put up because they gave you the ball, as opposed to saying, man, I want to get paid just like you do, so why should I give you the ball 40 times and I'm only getting it 5? So, those are the types of things that, to me, when I look at what he said about Scotty, what he said about the cocaine circus, what he said about Horace, and the fact that I didn't even get interviewed for it, not that I'm salty about it, but just the fact that, Ken Burns, who's one of the foremost documentarians in the world, they asked him to do the program, and he said Michael had too much control. And how can you tell a true story by having access to what's going to be said, and this isn't going in or that is going in? That's not cool.
Now, speaking of the Last Dance, and once again, we're here live with former Chicago Bulls 4-time champion, also 3 times 3-point contest champion, one of 2, Mr. Craig Hodges. My question is, so we talked about the mic and everything, and then you look at Sam Smith. He had a book about MJ
Right.
told the stewardess don't serve Grant and all of that good stuff. Do you remember any times or any of those times where Jordan used that type of tactic to toy with the players, or even that situation with Horace Grant?
Well, one of the things that one of the first things you learn is when you come into the league is that there's a certain amount of bantering, there's a certain amount of stickling, there's a certain amount of, jabbing and talking, and it's almost a sense of, we're going to see what type of character you made of, if you're thick-skinned and the like. And MJ had a way of doing that. And, a lot of times the players who are comfortable in their salary positions can do that. But then you have players who are struggling to get their next contract, and it's based upon stats, and you're able to laugh and joke about it when they're serious about it and they're taking it in a different light. So, you have those times when players, laugh and joke, and, you may be on a plane gambling, and you know that you have an unlimited pot, and the player you're playing against, this might be his meal money. So instead of you saying, brother, you don't need to be in this game, you want to get in his pocket. And those are things and instances, to me, that fractures human decency and human camaraderie, and but I understand the competition of it, and I understand I want to be better and that kind of thing, but at which point in time is the planet going to get more mature to be on the level of how can we make this thing better for everybody involved?
Absolutely. Now, how intense was that Detroit Piston rivalry, and what went through your mind as they walked off the court during the end of Game 4?
Oh, I loved it, man. That was affirmation that we had did what we needed to do. And in fact, to me, that was our coronation to the throne, from the standpoint of being champions after the next series. But that was to us, one of those things that was very disrespectful, but it was something that we had never did as a team. But, Isaiah brought up the point, and it was well taken from me, that Boston had did it, where they walked off in the last couple of seconds and that kind of thing. I understand it, not to be involved in the ceremony of a team that just beat you, but at the same time, I understand the value of sportsmanship and the models that it sends down to the next generation of student athletes.
Yeah, that growing up,
Man,
we hated the Pistons.
Oh man, and that's the thing, man. Like with me, I never really got into the bad boys, good men, all that. I didn't never really get into that. I was just in straight up, I want to make sure I don't let Isaiah embarrass me in front of the hometown. I want to make sure that we're able to come back and show them that we deserve to win. And that's the thing that I was telling Horace and Scotty when they were younger, is that, man, these cats are just throwing you to the ground because they know mentally you're going to come back. Now it's time for us to grow up. Once you hit the ground, let's go up here and knock down these free throws and then get a steal, and you rolling. So it was a thing of being able to mentally get us to be in a place where we were capable of winning. And you have to take the ass whoopings to get to that place, man.
And it's crazy because Isaiah is from the crib, right? My mother went
You
to
know,
school with him, and people from Chicago cannot stand him because of Mike.
and you
And the
know,
Bulls.
and that's the thing is that Isaiah's a good brother, you know, and I ain't gonna say misunderstood, but I'm gonna say that the aura of Bad Boys got a lot bigger than the player Isaiah, and that mantle and that mantra took on a nasty connotation in the mouths of the people of Chicago, and especially Chicago Bulls fans. And it's one of those things where, you know, rivalries in sport often take on a life of their own, and it carries on generational to the point where, you know, people be hated for the rest of their lives because they play for an opposing team, and they might be great people outside of that mantle of sport.
Now, you got a chance to coach. Phil Jackson had you coached with the Lakers. You was assistant coach of the Lakers. A lot of people don't know that. I remember seeing you like, oh, there you go. Oh, that's Craig Hodges. Yeah, I remember that. Now, you had the rare chance of playing with Mike, but then being able to coach Kobe Bryant. So, you know, a lot of people say, I played against Mike and I played against
Right.
Kobe, or I coached Kobe, but I played
Kobe,
against.
right.
But you had a chance to be like close to them, both of them.
Right.
Being able to be a part of both of their careers in their prime, what similarities did you see right off?
Man, and I'm getting chills just thinking about it, brother, because you know, Cole, man, great spirit, man, and Lord rest he and his daughter's soul, man, and the rest that passed. You know, he was one of them brothers, man, where he was constantly searching for ways to be the best he could within his craft. And, you know, when I first got the job, we're on a flight over to Hawaii because that's where we had training camp. And he passed by me. I'm reading. He passed by me, tapped me on the shoulder. He's like, yeah, man, when we get to Hawaii, I want to sit down and, you know, let's go to lunch tomorrow. So we had first practice. And after practice, you know, we went to lunch, and he was just on me, man, about, hey, man, what was MJ like in this situation? What was practice like, man? Did you find him to be a leader? I don't know about his leadership, man. He took an awful lot of shots when people was open. I'm like, hey, I seen you do some things too, brother. You know what I'm saying? But it was great to be around him, man. And you know, you never know the lifespan of people and the impact that, you know, the impact that he had in my life, and as far as me being able to, him telling me that his most favorite picture is the one of me and him, like 6:30 in the morning, not knowing that the cameraman was up in the office and taking a picture of me and him between the championship trophies, and I'm playing defense on him, and he's getting ready to try to make some movement. So, you know, it's all type of moments, man, early in the morning where he'd call me the night before, yeah, Hodge, I need some contact. All right, Cole, what time I need to be there, man? 6:30. Oh, man, I thought you was going to say 8. And, you know, you know, so it was one of the things where, you know, we'd come in there, and he loved the fact that when he would ask me to give him contact, I would never show him the same defensive position. And like I told him, I had to guard Michael every day, man. And my biggest thing was, I was never going to let you kick my ass the same way, the same time. You know what I'm saying? So you might have got me on a spin move that time, but next time I'm going to front you and make it hard for you to get the ball, or, you know, do something different and just make you have to work, man. And in that work is, you know, the progress for both. And it was the progress for both me and MJ as players. And then it was progress for me as a coach in learning how to teach other players from the working with the best player in the game.
Now, seeing that the NBA is a three-point driven league and so wide open, do you ever think about what it would be like if you played today?
Oh, man, you know, and the way to play in the day is almost the way we played in the summertime. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where the game is cyclical, and the way it's being played now is it's a positionless game. It's all driven by the analytics. And when you look at the analytics are put out by people who could never play basketball, and then, you know, get somebody else and give somebody else a job, you know, and none of them, the people who have those analytic jobs, look like us. So it's something else to, you know, to enhance the corporate side of the game and to give some more jobs. But to me, it's detrimental to the game because you have players who could be dominant players if they just rebound, run the court. And, and that's the thing where big men don't realize how dominant they can be by not just throwing an outlet pass. Grab the rebound and hold it. And that's what I learned from Bill Walton when I played with Bill Walton my rookie year. And, he'd throw me the first couple outlets in the game, and I'd take off running with him and go get my thing on or whatever. And then I'm like, Bill, why you didn't throw the outlet? I want to shoot too, man. So big men, they had that ability to grab that rebound and hold it. So, here, hold it, man. Wait till I get down there, So, it's just a lot of lessons in the game, man. I've been blessed to have had great coaching, from the time I was a baby with my granddad and my uncles to Steve Fisher, my high school coach, to Tex Winter, to Paul Silas, to Don Nelson. So I have had great coaching, man, and to have worked with Phil, who won 11 championships on the third of Tex Winter's system.
Right.
It's a blessing, man, from what I've had in the game, and to know that I've been able to couple, the game with, my stance for what's right and what's correct, and as far as human rights is concerned, man, and that's the blessing I had in my upbringing in the civil rights movement and being the baby of the movement.
All right. Well, man, it has been a pleasure having you on, sir. Go ahead.
And brother, anytime, man, anytime. And one of the things that I hope we can go ahead and start to galvanize, man, is the ability to just unify, man. One of the things that I was, you look at how people talk, but the message becomes clouded somehow. So I'm at All-Star Weekend. If y'all get a chance, look at the Slam magazine from All-Star Weekend edition they put out. And on the cover is MJ. And in the middle, they have Chicago's finest. And I'm not one of Chicago's finest, but that's not the point. The point is when you look on the back, and the message for his Zion Williamson is unite. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you can tell me this is unifying what he's doing.
Yes, sir.
So those are the things that I would hope that we can do. And y'all go forward. Let us, go forward and try to connect with as many people we can of like minds so that our children can have a better future, man.
No problem, man. Absolutely. And again, we appreciate you for coming on. Hopefully this won't be the last. And you have a great, wonderful day, sir.
You do the same, man, and peace and blessings to you and your listening audience, and everybody be safe and drink plenty of water.
Yes, brother. Thank you. All right, man. Great guest.